on. As you can tell by the intro to this video, this is going to be how to set up a romantic date night for you and your significant other. Now, before I get started, I want to let you guys know that this video is going to be done in collaboration with my girl, Melanie, over at the channel Living Luxuriously for Less. Now, we wanted to do something where we can share different ways to celebrate while we're on quarantine, so things that you can do in your home to make things special. Now, Melanie will be sharing a family movie night. She had the pleasure of keeping her nieces and nephews this past summer during the quarantine. And me, this is kind of impromptu for me. Melanie gave me a call on Friday and said, "Hey girl, what are you doing?" I said, "You know what? I'm really missing my boo. The weekend's here. I'm sending Ray off to her grandma's, and I'm really going to try to set up a nice little romantic evening for my husband and I. So when he gets home from work, everything's all set. The mood is together, and I'm just going to do an at-home date night." And she said, "You know what? We should do a collab because I just did a movie night for, my nieces and nephews. Maybe you can just share how to do a romantic date night." So I thought, that would be a good idea, but I knew it would create some challenges with my husband. I'll get to that in a minute. Now, let me put this disclaimer out there. My video is going to be just a tad bit bootleggish, and the reason is I was not planning on recording this video. This was just going to be a private night for my husband and I. So now that that is out of the way, you guys give me some grace and then kind of use your imagination as we walk through my process of setting up a date night for you and your significant other. So the first step when you're setting up a romantic date night, or any event for that matter, is to consider the recipient's needs and wants. So in this case, I'm setting up a romantic date night for my husband, so I'm going to think about all the things that he would like, not necessarily what I would like, because I'm trying to celebrate him. And so remember, I talked about my disclaimer. One of the things that I have to really think about when I am doing things with my husband or my family is considering their feelings. They cannot stand YouTube, especially when it comes to doing something for them, because it takes away that specialness when I'm trying to record and share the moment with you guys, because it delays them on the back end. For example, let me kind of give you an analogy. Have you ever watched a TV show or a movie and there is a romantic love scene and you're watching it, you're like, man, that looks good. Oh my gosh, this is so sensual. I wish my man was like that, etc. It just looks really, really good on screen. So you're getting the pleasure of watching that steamy love scene. But on the flip side, the actors that are performing in that scene, it's nothing but sensual. You have all kinds of cameramen here, people over there directing them, and it's nothing sensual about that scene. It's just kind of like work. Well, that's the same thing when you're trying to do something special for someone in your home or your family, and you're trying to record it and share it with the world. It looks really nice YouTube ready when you're putting it together, but for that person that's supposed to be celebrated, they're sitting there waiting. They're like, "You know what, Carrie, I thought this was a romantic date night. My steak is cold," because you're trying to take pictures of the steak. "Oh, my drink is flat," because you're trying to take pictures of the drink, and it just becomes about the video and not about the person. So what I ended up having to do was kind of recreate the night. I did not want anything to interfere with our date night. I wanted to make sure all the focus was on my husband. So with that being said, long story short, make sure your spouse, your family, whoever it is, has your undivided attention when you're trying to do something special for them. Number 2, I had to consider my husband's diet. We've been trying to eat really healthy lately. We've been out walking, we've been out exercising, so I didn't want to sabotage his diet, especially since he didn't know I was doing this impromptu date night. So my husband's a huge meat eater, and he absolutely loves a really good quality steak. So I thought I'd just make a really nice juicy steak, and then I did a side of vegetables. I did not include like mashed potatoes and gravy, which he would also have loved, but I considered where he is and what he's trying to accomplish with his, health journey. So I skipped all of the mashed potatoes and gravy and things like that. I just had the steak and the vegetables. But you plan a menu the way that you like or how your significant other would like it. And then also I didn't have any wine, which I would have liked. I just had some sparkling water to consider our, health needs. And then also for dessert, really didn't have dessert. We just, snacked on some grapes, and I made a healthy spinach artichoke dip by using Greek yogurt instead of using the full fat cream cheese, and that was kind of like what we snacked on or was our kind of dessert. And let's face it, this is a romantic date night. I am the main meal. Now step 2 is setting the mood. You want to create a nice ambiance, and also in creating the mood you also want to make sure that you have a nice flow. Think about how that evening is going to flow. So I am thinking about when my husband first walks through that door, I want him to hear the record player going. And yes, you guys know I have an old soul. I like to bust out my record player every now and then. And so when he walks through that door and he hears that record player going and he hears some Marvin Gaye, Let's Get It On, it's automatically going to put him in a different frame of mind, especially since he wasn't, expecting that. He has the aroma of a nice big juicy steak that's going to get him, really pumped up and going. And then you have the candlelight, so you just have some votive candles around, and candles on your tablescape. That really creates the mood, the visual. And then the next step after you've created the mood, you're going to think about the activities. What are you going to do that evening? Now we all know, by the end of the evening he's going to get him some, but you don't want to start off like that. You want to lead up. You want to build up to, that culmination at the end of the evening. So I know, for my husband, we love Scrabble. We've enjoyed Scrabble for years and years and years. So I knew that I, busted out the Scrabble board. We're going to play a game of Scrabble after we ate. We're going to listen to music. And then also I had, on the ready, a little manicure set. I wanted to just shape his nails up, give him a nice manicure, rub his hands, talk about our day. So that was on the side, and then we just kind of let the rest of the evening take its course. But just make sure that you have, some conversation thoughts ready going in your head, some activities, but think about what they would enjoy doing with you. And then some final tips to consider. If you can, get the kids out of the house. That's if you have children. Now, I know it's not always feasible to get the kids out of the house. You may not have, the luxury of having a family member or a friend that will allow the kids to spend the night, especially during the quarantine. So if that is the case for you, set up your date night in your bedroom. And that's where you won't see that in this video. I'm going to be sharing my recreation of my date night in my parlor room. So here is my very simplistic table setup. It's really nothing super fancy, but it's just nice and elegant and romantic for a date night. So what I did was I took a silver charger and then just placed a, plain white plate on top and just a monogrammed napkin, and then I just paired that with just some really nice silverware. I forgot to put in this video the steak knives because, again, I mentioned we were having steak and you want to use a steak knife to cut the steak, but those are actually in the dishwasher. But that's just very simple. And you guys know that I always add something a little extra special to my tables. And so tonight, what I decided to add were my individual asparagus tongs. Aren't these adorable? Now you can get them in silver plate or actual silver. I don't want all of you guys rushing out to actually go purchase some, but for those of you who are tabletop enthusiasts, I'll leave a link in the description box below where you could actually find some that are similar. Now, many of you might be asking, hey, Carrie, what are individual asparagus tongs used for? Well, I'm glad that you asked. Now I'm going to do an impromptu demonstration. Here's my asparagus. I'm going to turn mine around because I'm left-handed. Now again, guys, we are recreating and improvising. This asparagus is not cooked. I just grabbed what was left over out of the fridge. But let's just imagine for a moment this is nice roasted asparagus sprinkled with sea salt and oil and then topped with a nice grated fresh Parmesan cheese. Right? Now what you use these individual asparagus tongs for are for grabbing your asparagus and putting it on your plate. Now, asparagus, the proper way to eat asparagus is with your hands. You know, it is quite acceptable to pick up an asparagus spear, bite it, eat it with your hands. You do not have to eat it with a knife and fork. It's perfectly acceptable to eat it this way. But back in the Victorian era, they had a utensil for everything, and they didn't want to touch any of their food. Although it was proper to eat asparagus with your fingers, they wanted this tool to pick up their asparagus and hold it with the individual asparagus tongue and proceed to eat their asparagus, so that way they would not have to touch their food. Isn't that bougie? And you guys know I had to add an element to my table for me. I know it was about my husband, but I needed something to get me excited, and I absolutely love these things. Now, the way we entertain today, no one would actually really use these at a table, but they do have a nice practical use when you're setting up your buffets and things like that. If you're having like a small tea party, you can actually still use these as tongs. You can get all different types of food to transfer from the vessel to your plate, so you don't have to use them individually as you sit down and eat, but you can also find practical everyday uses for these small beautiful silver tongs. And then next, what I had on my table were these beautiful asparagus salt and pepper shakers. I got these years ago from a Tuesday morning clearance. And then you wanted to keep things small, so I took a silver wine glass. This was just small enough for this card table, and I put in a dozen roses. And then I flanked my little centerpiece there with 2 candlesticks to create that ambiance. And you guys recall from my previous video that I did last week, I did a fall haul video, and these are the candle holders that I picked up from the Goodwill. And then over here we have our coaster. This is a wine coaster, but I'm just putting in our sparkling water because, again, I told you we are being health conscious. And this beautiful Ralph Lauren silver plated coaster I got from a consignment shop, one of my favorite go-to spots. And that's it. It's pretty simple. Now, since this table is really small, I didn't want to clutter it up. And so when I talked about flow, what you want to do is make sure that you just have the basic things that you need to eat: your knife, your fork, your napkin, and your drinking glass. And so remember, I was talking about flow. Since you don't have much on the table here, where and how would I serve the food? You can either bring your food out already plated and just sit it on the table and you guys can enjoy your dinner that way, or you can have a nearby table. I had a table set up right behind the space that we were dining at, the card table, and I just put our food out on this table. This is the table that usually houses our chess set. I just took the chess set off, and then I had all of the food set up here like a buffet. So the steak was in one container, and the asparagus was in another, and then I had this really cute asparagus candle holder, and what I did was turned it into like an appetizer. I turned it into a appetizer decor slash centerpiece. So I just took a little glass bowl and I filled that with cocktail sauce, and we just had shrimp, just plain shrimp cocktail. And then in the back, this is our snacks section, and we just, like I said, we didn't have dessert. We were watching, what we ate. So I just used what we had on hand, and we had some grapes. So we had grapes, and then here's my little artichoke that I bought, that I shared with you guys in my fall decor haul last week or a few days ago. And then in here is my skinny version of a spinach artichoke dip. And I have chips out here now, but we had a lot of fresh vegetables cut up to dip our artichoke dip in so that we wouldn't fill up on chips, but we had a few chips. And then I had the shrimp also lined up on there so we could have the shrimp cocktail. And then also when I'm talking about flow, I put all of the items on this little tray here. It has some handles on the side. This was another thrifty find, so that I can just transport this over to the area that we will be playing Scrabble after we finish eating. All I have to do is snatch that up. I also had our 2 glasses on here so that if we wanted to drink while we move to the next area, we would have everything we needed on our little snack tray. So it's good to have a little, table set up so that you can, make your plates and then go back to your little intimate dining space. So after we finished eating our dinner, we would move over from the card table to the center of the room. In this case, we're in the parlor room, but if you're in the bedroom, you can move wherever, you decide is the appropriate place to play a game. So in here, I just set up the Scrabble on our ottoman, and we can just kind of sit down on the floor, kind of lean in, talk, and I would place our snacks down there on that tray so that we can just kind of like hang out and just have a fun game of Scrabble around the ottoman. And I absolutely love this Scrabble board. We had this for, I don't know, at least 13, 14 years. And one year my mom got a Scrabble dictionary for us, and she got our names engraved on them. I thought that was really, really sweet. And I just love this. Every time we play Scrabble, we always play it in, this book, record our scores. And in the beginning, I used to kick my husband's butt. Like, literally, I would win all the time. We write the winner's name up here. Then he just kind of like joined an online Scrabble team and tried to start playing Scrabble with competitors online so that he could, beat me. And then he started really kicking my behind. And as you can see here, it says 2/15/2005. So we've been playing and using this book all the way since 2005. So that's 15 years. And we just noticed that we're down to our last few pages, and we really only have 1, 2, 3 more games of Scrabble to play before we completely fill this book up. So Scrabble is really near and dear to our hearts. And in case you were wondering who won last night, my husband crushed me. Look, the score was 258 to 498. And if you know anything about Scrabble, that is horrific. But again, I can't complain. When your letters look like this was literally my hand for most of the night. I kept getting letters like this. 2 I's, 2 U's. What am I going to do with this? Although I had high tile letters, there was nothing I could spell with these words. And he was dogging me out with like 7-letter words. I mean, he crushed me. So guys, I hope you enjoyed my bootleg recreation of my date night with my husband. Hopefully I was able to give you some tips and ideas to set up a really nice romantic date night for you and your significant other. Be sure to head on over to Melanie's channel over at Living Luxuriously for Less to see how you can incorporate a family movie night. So after date night, next week maybe you can do a movie night. And until next time, I'm going to keep calm and carry on. Bye guys.